I'm Simon. I run the client success team at Mention Me, and so my job today is actually the same as my job is every day, is to try and make sure our clients get as much value as possible from their referral program. And we do that by providing advice and support and insight and best practice and stuff like that across the client base, because we share that because you all have similar-ish problems and we want to help you benefit from the expertise that we've developed from running referral programs. And what I'm going to do with you over the next 10-15 minutes is just talk in a little bit more detail about the sorts of things that make the difference in terms of driving referral performance for your business. And I'm going to illustrate it with some specific examples that hopefully I want you to go away from this empowered to think a bit more about how you're going to make best use of referral in your business. I'm well aware I'm the last thing on the agenda, standing between you and a doubtless incredibly productive day back in your offices. And so I'm also making it my mission to get your mind thinking a bit. There's going to be an interactive element to this presentation later on. We're going to write a song together. No, I'm not. We're not really going to. I'm going to ask you some questions as we go through and make sure that you're on board. Right, I'm going to start this. We've consolidated 5 years of experience, 400 referral schemes across a whole variety of sectors into one concise list that this is how to make a referral scheme work. Are you ready? Have I built the tension enough? These are the secrets of running a successful referral program. Be remarkable. Ask nicely and do your homework, right? Okay, everybody happy? Thank you very much for your day. That is, although that sounds like the sort of thing I say to my children on a weekly basis about how to behave in the house, this is also useful for you if you think about how to set up your referral program. So what I'm going to do, go through each of these in turn and talk about what that might mean in practice. So let's start with be remarkable. I mean that in the most literal way possible. The reason your customers talk about the product or the brand or the service that you offer is because they find it worthy of remark to their friends. It comes into their mind when they're thinking about what they want to talk about with their friends. And so we looked at what it meant to be remarkable and what factors influenced people's decisions to make a referral or make a recommendation. We surveyed a few thousand consumers around this. And they identified the factors that were important to them or not important to them when it came to thinking about whether they were going to make a referral recommendation. And this shouldn't surprise you, but absolutely top of the list for this sort of stuff is whether the product or the service and the brand were capable of delivering on their promises. Were they perceived as trustworthy, of good quality? Did they deliver good value? And these things were critically important in the way people started to think about whether or not they would be willing to make a referral. And then those need to be in place, and then these sorts of factors start to come into account and be considered when people are thinking about making a referral. Is this something new or different that my friends will not have heard of? Can I offer them something that they can't get somewhere else in terms of maybe a discount or an experience that I can give them access to? Takeaway message for you from this is if you are not a trustworthy brand, or you deliver a poor quality experience or deliver poor value to your customers, referral is not the channel for you. And you should go away and work on those fairly fundamental things first before you consider putting in a referral scheme. And we asked, the things that actively work against it, poor quality, not as described. So we need to be working on, we're assuming that you're here because those things are given for you and that you can build on the basis on the back of the high quality experience that you deliver. We also looked at what experiences or vertical sectors were more likely to be referred, and actually there was a question in the first half about gender split as well. And so we looked at different types of sector, picked out whether women or men, what the likelihood that each gender had with respect to making a referral or a recommendation for these sectors. And unsurprisingly again, the experiential stuff tends to come up top. People are much more likely to talk about positive experiences they've had, whether that's travel experience or a dining experience or something like that. And then coming a bit further down the line, women's fashion, totally top of the list, that's not a surprise. It tends to be in the fashion sector that women will tend to talk, share more than men. You can see that even though men's fashion comes next, men are less likely to talk about men's fashion than women are to talk about women's fashion. This is primarily UK research, by the way, just to put a bit more context around it. And so what that means is, if you look through these sectors, not necessarily that we're never going to get financial services referral working. It just means we need to think a little bit harder about the sorts of things that make it worthy of someone to comment or make a remark about the service that they're getting as they work towards it. Okay, so be remarkable. Second secret to running a successful referral program is you have to ask your customers to refer you. So all of you will be getting natural word of mouth. There'll be an element, a degree to which right now there are some of your customers out there talking about their experience and making a recommendation to their friend. But if you want to amp that up, you need to ask. You need to get in front of the customer at a particular point in their experience and make a request of them to make a referral for you. And so the 3 rules about the best times to ask are you want your customers to be online because that makes it really easy for them to make a referral. They can just ping a message over WhatsApp to a friend of theirs, they can write an email. When they're not trying to do something else with you, so they're not in the middle of making a purchase or submitting a meter reading or checking their account balance or something like that, and that they're positively minded about you and the product or the service that you offer. So they're not trying to make a complaint, for example, would not be a good time to make a referral. And so you've heard quite a lot already about post-purchase or on the order confirmation or the post-sign-up page being a commonly used place for doing that. And that the reason is because it hits all 3 of these factors. At the end of the purchase or the sign-up journey, the customer is online, they've done the thing they wanted to do, which is to sign up today or to make that purchase, and they are happy. Even if they haven't started to reap the benefit of using the thing that they've bought or the service they signed up for, they've made the psychological commitment that this is something they like. And so they're in a position where they've convinced themselves they're happy. What better time to prompt them to ask for referral? But that's not the only time to ask. And as Carl and a few of the panelists talked about, what we encourage clients to look at is, look where else in the customer experience of your brand are your customers' points of delight? Where are they happiest? And so we've plotted out here an example of a retail journey. You have the kind of shopping and buying process, and anything in red up higher is where customers are much more likely to be happy, and down here is perhaps when they're not quite so happy. And then, say, purchase, and that's a great time to promote, but then they're waiting for delivery. And then maybe unboxing is a time of great delight. Hannah just talked about, what better opportunity than when you open the box of the boots that you've maybe been wanting to buy for 3 months, and there they are, and you get a little reminder that why not give a friend this joy as well? Maybe they have a returns process. And then perhaps as you start to go out into first use, so in fashion, this might be the first time you wear that outfit and you start to get a couple of compliments. And that is a moment where it's like, I'm validated in the decision I made to buy this. I really like the product that I bought. And then over time, it becomes less remarkable. So what we're looking at is, can we find some points of touch points that you have with your customers today that intersect with these points of delight? Because if we can, we're much more likely to be able to provoke a referral. Now that's a retail example. It will look very different for different sectors. So here's an example of what travel might look like. So obviously travel generally a joyful experience and lots of anticipation, and then the stress as everybody tries to cram everything into the suitcases just before you go, and you scream at your children and blah, blah, blah. You know the experience. Then hopefully nothing but untrammeled delights when you arrive at your destination, followed by the misery of coming home to a cold house and all that sort of stuff. But can we try and tap into the post-travel buzz when you're out and about talking to your friends about the great experience that you've had? Can we try and touch you with a request to introduce a friend to a similar experience? So you will have, each of you will have your own customer delight curve and your own touch points that you can control. And what we work with you to do is to think about how you can take advantage of those touch points to drive the referral recommendations. And so just to put some specific examples in place around this, here's Stewaholics. I don't know if you were expecting this, Hannah, but here's an example of what we were doing. So homepage promotion, solar sends, and so on. So as customers were engaging with the brand at points other than post-purchase, they were being told about this referral offer, being told that they could introduce their friends. And what we would expect is that for mature referral programs for retail clients, you would typically expect about 50% of the referral activity is driven off the post-purchase promotion alone, so it's very, very valuable. But then 50% of the referral activity is driven from the other touch points that you're able to enable as a result of widening promotion. That's a retail example. A different retail example is Swoon Editions, the furniture brand. They've done a huge amount of benefit. They derive a huge amount of benefit today from promoting on the homepage, because obviously furniture is a much more considered purchase. And so people will be spending a long time on site looking at product. And so asking them if they've found a product that they think might resonate with a friend, and promoting a referral offer to them is a great thing to do. A different example would be Hive, so energy device company, and they promote in-app. Very simply, it's available always in the Hive app menu, and so as a Hive customer, I know I can always go to the app, which will be installed on my phone at all times anyway, because that's part of the use of the product, and I can always pull out a referral offer. And so Ed's talked about some of the mechanics by which you can do it, but what this supports as well is I might have bought the product 2 years ago, but I'm probably using it every day or every month, and I can always go back to the referral program. And if I wind up having a conversation with a friend that happens to touch on things that are to do with energy devices, I can literally just pull out my phone and say, oh, you should try this stuff out, and I can get you a tenner or something like that. A much, much more direct call to action. And so for services businesses that are app-based, the financial services, places like Nutmeg and Tandem Bank and places like that, then promoting in-app where customers are frequently going to check the status of their balance or to look to apply to a new product is a very powerful channel that we should look to exploit. I did some analysis last year for one of our energy clients about they have integrated referral into their app as well. And although we, according to the data we had access to, I think 80% of customers, their first contact point with the referral offer was immediately after they'd signed up for the service. The touch point that was driving the most sharing activity and the most new customers was actually in the app. And so what was happening were customers were signing up and they would see the referral offer immediately after they'd signed up, but they would dismiss it and not share. But then 2 months later, they'd be in a conversation with a neighbour talking about OVO and saying, okay, I can get you a 50 quid Amazon voucher if you sign up, I'll send you a link and you can do that today. So incredibly powerful if you have good customer engagement in your app. The next thing you have to do, if you're going to ask, is you have to ask nicely. So you have to put together a referral offer that appeals to your customers. And so we asked consumers what sorts of things they might value in a referral offer. And so did they like percentages off? Did they like pounds off, free gift? Disappointingly, very few people like charity donations, and that's not seen as something that's particularly valuable. That really frustrates me. We have tried it a few times with different clients, and it's always disappointing to see that charity donation on its own does not drive very much. But try to think about what sorts of things will your customers value. And we talk a lot about incentives, and there's more to come on incentives. But one of the ways of thinking about incentives is that they are necessary but not sufficient to drive referral. They need to be interesting and relevant enough that if I offer this to you, then it's going to feel like I'm doing you a favour and that I'm giving you something that you might not otherwise have access to. But it doesn't have to be a massive discount. That's not going to be the thing that drives the majority of the referral activity. So think about what sorts of things you can offer your customers that are likely to appeal to them, and then test. Right? Hopefully this theme is coming out, but your first theory about what's going to work best for your customers and their friends may not be right, and so be willing and ready to play around with different incentives and different ways of framing the referral offer in order to try and find the things that can really drive the performance of the scheme. And we look to drive a significant performance improvement in the first few months as a result of the testing. And we, at times, can double or triple the performance of the referral scheme in a single test if we're able to access one particular thing that makes a big difference. And so, in order to try and wake you up a bit this morning, here is the interactive section of the presentation. I thought I'd show you some examples of tests that have really been run and see if you could work out what the results were. I'm going to warm you up slowly. So here is an offer that we ran. I think this was for Coast. I can't remember, actually, where one variation, we were giving the customer a chance to share 10% off with their friends, and the other variation, we were giving the customer a chance to share 15% off with your friends. Hands up if you think offering 10% off was the best performing of these offers. Okay, good. And hands up if you think 15% off was the... Most of you graduate this test, right? A 15% off, a more interesting incentive, a more remarkable incentive, much more likely to drive engagement. The interesting bit here was that not only did it drive a higher rate of sharing, so a customer who saw that offer was more likely to send it to a friend, but actually when those friends converted, they drove much more revenue, significantly more revenue. So a much higher AOV off the customers that converted from the back of it. Okay, here's a different one. So Animist, the beauty brand, and so here we've got first variation, 10% off. Second variation, a free gift. I think a papaya enzyme peel. I'm not really sure what one of those is, but a papaya enzyme peel it is. So hands up if you think 10% off was the best performing referral offer here. And hands up if you think a free gift, papaya enzyme peel. About 50-50 in the room. The winner was 10% off. Which surprised me. There's an interesting dynamic here. The free gift seemed to encourage more sharing, and so customers were more likely to send the offer to their friend if they could give them a free papaya enzyme peel. But actually, those friends were much more likely to convert with a money off voucher in hand. And there's probably something here about if you don't know the brand, don't know the product, a free gift is not necessarily that relevant to you, whereas if you do know the brand, the free gift is relevant. But the 10% off drove much better conversion, and overall, it balanced out that the 10% off offer was a much more compelling version. Completely different example. So here's Money Corp, so financial services money transfer, and they run a referral program where they give their customers £75 on their account for making a referral and introduction. And actually, there is no difference in the financial setup and the actual value of the incentives here. One is offering the friend £75 for every friend they introduce, the customer £75. The other is saying you can share 150 quid with your friends. Both parties are getting £75. Hands up for the one on the left, you can get 75 quid. Hands up for the one on the right, you can share 150 quid. Well, you're all right. Well done, everybody. So this tended to drive better rates of sharing, but overall they balanced out, and we didn't come away with a conclusive winner from this. So sometimes that's what happens with the tests. So I've talked about incentives. Here's a completely different type of test that we often run. Are your customers generous or selfish? It's like, are they going to be motivated? The hero messaging, is the hero messaging give your friends 15% off, or is the hero messaging get 15% off for each friend? Is it about what I can give to you, or is it about what I can get for myself? Hands up if you think that the Virgin Experience Days customers were generous and selfless and motivated. This one was the winner. And hands up if you think people were much more selfish. Everybody always thinks that their customers are selfish, and normally, but not exclusively, they're wrong. People tend to be, not always, and it's always worth testing this, tend to be much more selfless than you give them credit for. They're more thinking about the utility and the help they can give their friend. Not always the case, but that's an interesting one to play with. Okay, final secret of running a successful referral program. Lizzie hinted about this earlier as well. You need to do your homework. Referral is not a channel that you can just switch on and it will just automatically start delivering you 15% more acquisition on your customer base. It requires some effort from you. And when I say some effort, we actually surveyed our clients, I think last year, and asked them how much time they typically spent running their referral program. And once it's up and running, about an hour and a half, 2 hours a week. It's that kind of order of magnitude of work. Sometimes that work is simply saying yes to the recommendations that we provide. It might be going and talking internally about whether you're able to try this thing out or that thing out, fighting for space in the email marketing calendar, whatever it turns out to be. But some time spent continually looking at driving referral performance pays back. Referral schemes that switch on and where people struggle to find the time to engage with don't work very well. And so we will keep coming to you and asking you and making recommendations and making advice. And if you're prepared to commit, then we're much more likely to see significant benefit off the back of referral. So there you go. Those are the secrets of running a successful referral program. Be remarkable, ask nicely, and do your homework. And if you do those things and get a referral program off the ground, then I'm confident you're going to see quite a lot of value from those. The reason we want to talk about how long this might take to get going. So we target getting new clients live within 30 days of signing their contract. You can go quicker than that. The official office record is 7 hours from kickoff to go live. I think that's an exception rather than the norm, but I wish it were the norm. We've put a lot of time and effort into trying to simplify that process as best we can. And if you can do that, you could be live in the middle of December. And then you could be spending the next few months on an early program of A/B testing, like trying out different incentives, different ways of presenting the referral offer, and learning what resonates best with your customer base. And then come Q2 next year, you could be starting to push the promotion of the scheme, getting it in front of customers more often, and more customers more regularly, and really starting to be ready for if you've got a summer peak and you're in retail and you've got summer sales coming in, you could be really starting to deliver some real value from the scheme by then. And so I'm very much looking forward to welcoming all of you into the Mention Me client portfolio in the next month and having you all live by Christmas. Does that sound like a reasonable goal? Great, and that's it. That's everything I wanted to cover off this morning. Thank you very much for your time. I'm just going to hand over to Andy to wrap it up.